we're basing this presentation on a premise, several premises. One, that the challenge, thank you, Sadie, the challenges that we face in this moment in our world are escalating. They're becoming more complex, more challenging, and thereby more difficult to resolve and to constructively address in the near term. And that currently our world is conflicted and at odds with itself. Humanity in conflict and competition with humanity. This isn't a problem. This is simply an evolutionary step on the path for our species to evolve to whatever next step we all collectively choose to manifest in our world. The new way of life that will be required, whatever that might be. In this process, we're not assuming that we have all of the answers at all. We are suggesting that in order for those answers and solutions and strategies and possibilities to be co-creatively arrived at, that it is optimal that there be some venue for working together collaboratively and consciously in service to humanity and the planet, and that designed environment and technology can be constructed with today's technology and made available to everybody so that we can work together successfully in the near term and in the long term. That technology and that organizational process is the social, what we're labeling the social movement engine. It will do a lot more things than create social movements. That said, we're assuming that the intentions of humanity are the start of all possibility for our world and must be so. If we are stratifying of humanity, or if we are excluding of humanity, or if people are not included from the vantage point of recognized equality, then our future will be limited by the status quo of the past. And we'll just get more of what we've created in the past, more of the same detrimental results, pollution, conflict, war, terrorism, COVID-19, and unresolved pain and suffering in various nations and various cultures. If we could go to slide 2 for just a moment. So we are asking that you, if you are comfortable doing so, just giving a brief description, a brief statement of where you see the world to be at this time, how you are emotionally connecting with the challenges that we are facing in the present moment, how you are reacting, how you are experiencing the challenges of the world, and what you feel those main challenges are at this time. Next slide. We are here today to connect and share with you our intentions to serve humanity and the specific process by which we intend that to occur. We're only trying to offer information. We don't have any expectations of you. Whatever you derive from this communication is fantastic. If it is of value, that's wonderful. If it is perceived to be of no value, that is equally fine. We hope that what we communicate today will benefit your lives. We are building within the WSS, or World System Solutions, solution systems, a conscious community dedicated to serving the world. This community intends to meet you and all of humanity with unconditional love and compassion, and a recognition that we're all equal children of God. Our process is based on building a global collaboration platform, a new form of collaboration that has not existed before anywhere in the world, and that is based on non-judgmental acceptance of all participants, and that is a collective social network that produces solutions to the world's large-scale problems in a way that will fundamentally transform our world in the near term and in the long term for the common good. We do request that you receive and interpret everything we say today in this light, and through these heartfelt intentions, we only want to help. None of this is prescriptive. None of this is an attempt or intention in any way to create change in the world. We want to be the highway for you folks to create change. We want to be the platform, the path, the bridge, and the highway that will allow those changes to occur. We simply want to serve in that way. Next slide. Currently, our global situation is one of suffering and increasing pressures. We've got conflict, tribalism, cultural wounding that is as of yet unresolved. We're operating from limiting mindsets and with limited resources, and blind and voracious feeding on our natural world. Humanity is consuming our world ever more rapidly, and we're not rebuilding it as we do. And that is causing innumerable problems that will simply escalate as time goes by. The issues in the world are becoming more and more complex quite rapidly, and that complexity itself is tremendously challenging to solve for, to create solutions for, to define strategies that will resolve the complexity of the problems in the near term, and to do so in the time available to us and with the resources available to us. So competition and greed are exacerbating that overall situation. And they're doing so via misinformation and incomplete information and even information warfare. We have COVID-19, a global recession, partisan political warfare, climate change, endemic corruption in the world, and all being driven by profit motive, and that's leading to pollution of various kinds. Emotional pollution, physical, chemical pollution, in divisive forms of cultural pollution. Right now, we've got multiple social movements that are occurring in the world. Black Lives Matter, the hashtag #MeToo movement. We've got people protesting in regard to inequality, various forms of imbalance in the world, inequity, prejudice, and paradoxically, even the best intended social movements are either generating or are meeting up with separatist mindsets and bias. Traditional systems of leadership and government and cultural transformation and for-profit competitive organizations and economic models and even educational models no longer optimally serve humanity's needs. We are at an impasse. What we have been doing in the past is not constructively and adequately building the future in a healthy way in our current life process as a species. So a paradigm shift is now required. And there must be a path and a process to support that paradigm shift. We must operate in highly organized and constructive and effective and efficient ways in order for that to happen. Technology can either be our enemy or our friend in that process. So conscious, wise utilization of technology that solves problems or heals the world, the natural world, and heals the human cultural process is beneficial. Technology that supports conflict, misunderstanding, divisiveness, competition, pollution in the world, and pollution in society's emotional and cultural processes is antithetical to optimized transformation and optimized solution finding in the future. All of our current day-to-day and global problems and pain are the result of humanity's traditional primal competitive drives. Now, those primal competitive drives have served us in the past. They have generated our traditions, our cultures, our nations, and our tribes. They have gotten us to this point of evolution. Therefore, we would suggest from that vantage point, they have served a purpose. They have been good. And now they have reached a point of diminishing returns in terms of benefit. And they are toxifying our life process, our world, and our capacity to work together in unconditionally loving collaboration to build the world from this point on, to solve our problems, and to transform ourselves as individuals and as cultural collectives, the quality of consciousness that we operate from, into that which will optimally build a healthy future for the world and for our species. So everything in our world is connected, and we must choose. It's required that we choose, because we all have free will, to change, whether personally or collectively, and to do so in orchestrated concert with each other. If we don't do that, then we will operate in a very staccato way, a very conflicted way, and out of an unbalanced and disharmonious way, trying to build the future not at the same time in the same direction. We'll be pulling different directions consistently. And if we don't have a way of aligning our efforts intelligently and collaboratively and in an orchestrated way, then we will be inefficient in our utilization of our resources, and we'll continue to misunderstand one another and potentially fight each other on the path to our own salvation. The WSS platform, we call the Social Movement Engine, is designed to transform human cultures and to provide the complete antidote, as much as it can be provided, to your pain and the suffering of the world, at least to diminish it. There are no perfect solutions. There are no silver bullets. There is no way to solve everything in the world that's generating our pain and suffering or diminishing our potential. And there are ways to strategize to maximize the possibility of good outcomes for all of humanity. And the Social Movement Engine is that. This global shift, this diagram we're looking at in regard to the global shift for the planet, basically puts it in simple terms, starting at the top in the middle. We've got computers, we've got an internet, we've got lots of technology, we have smartphones distributed around the world, and future technologies and sciences are going to simply rapidly develop and evolve as time goes by, including genetic sciences and artificial intelligence. All of that technology is currently feeding box 2 on the bottom on the right, the evolving traditional systems of global development and governance, including leadership and governmental institutions, and political and judicial and educational and economic systems, policy making, and social and cultural processes. And of course, in the processes, incompletely honoring the will of the people, meaning no current system is designed to reflect accurately and consistently and persistently the will of the people in terms of how our world transforms and evolves. So we would suggest that the development of such a system is key to solving the world's problems and transforming the world in a comprehensive way. That leads us to the third box on the bottom left, the Social Movement Engine, social and cultural technologies developed to allow and support people working together collaboratively, intelligently, wisely, constructively, and a complete delivery system for any and all solutions that they develop and support for those developed solutions. So the social movement engine must bring people together, support their development of solutions and solution strategies, and also deliver and implement those solutions in the world. So that is a comprehensive global transformation system. One key element of that transformation is facilitation and support for evolution of consciousness via various forms of education that would occur for free in the world. Meaning that if people currently are conflicted or fearful or misunderstanding the nature of the global situation, and they don't have a way to harmoniously align their efforts, then some support system to help them get there and to give them whatever they need in order to arrive at that capacity to work together is optimal. This is not a process of impressing anything on anybody. This is not a process of telling any human being what to do ever. This is not a process of trying to impress a specific agenda or strategy onto anybody. This is a process of facilitating human beings in deciding what they want to strategize, what they want to be created in the world, and then empowering them to actually co-create it and manifest it in a healthy and complete way. Next slide. This is the summary slide for the social movement engine. It has three main levels, and starting at the bottom level, where we talk about global inputs from on-the-ground users, meaning any of the 7.6, give or take, billion people on the planet via smartphone or internet or through whatever means they can arrive at the communication, providing statements of what they want, what they see as problems, what their ideas are for resolution of problems, how they want their world to transform. And we would suggest that each and every one of those communications is literally a sort of vote and a literal capacity by the individual to steer the entirety of the social movement engine process in the world. The social movement engine will be designed to bring together universities, think tanks, research institutions, governmental institutions, not-for-profit and for-profit organizations, subject matter experts in a collaborative way in order to design solutions and solution strategies and to then implement them. So in order for that to optimally occur, it must occur in harmony with the various populations of the world. And in order to ensure that that harmony is consistently maintained, that all of those people working in all of those organizations are actually affecting the will of the people, that will must be understood, that those perspectives, those desires, those motivations, those beliefs, those priorities must be understood. They must be collected somewhere, synthesized and integrated, and turned into information that these folks can use and utilize for development of strategies and technologies that will transform our world to become what the collective wants it to become. So this is a very democratic approach to world transformation. It is supportive of leadership at all levels, because if leaders are simply voicing what the people in their constituencies want and when, where, how, and why they want it delivered, then the leaders are empowered, and the people who are creating the votes into the system are empowering them. This entire system will be completely transparent. There will be nothing hidden. There will be no potential for misinformation or agenda to be created that is not obvious on the surface. It will have what's termed a blockchain database, meaning a database that cannot be messed with, modified, gamed, or agendified by anybody. And there will be a clear process for tracking all inputs into this system so that there won't be an option of any special interest defining its dynamics or what it generates anywhere in the world. And if such an attempt was made, it would be clearly trackable and discernible and then resolvable. So again, the bottom level of this level 1 collects the information from folks around the world. It also collects information from subject matter experts that basically can communicate the issues and problems into that central database that the person in the street might not be able to have visibility on. So if there were people who were experts on global warming, they could contribute information into that same issues database. If there were people who were experts on pollution, they could contribute specific information that would be beneficial for development of strategies. If there were people who were technology experts and saw problems, potential problems such as cyber warfare potentials or artificial intelligence running amok in some way in the world, they could communicate those issues. All of that information would be collected in level 2 by researchers in an integrated artificially intelligent engine or database. And that information would be organized and refined and made available for the users of level 2, which you can see on the right, which would be universities and think tanks and research institutions. They would have an online environment, not dissimilar to Zoom right now in some ways, meaning a place where they could all review clean, accurate, up-to-date information and model solutions online in real time and model strategies that would be designed to solve those problems in the world or to transform the world in different ways that would actually be helpful in a very equitable way to all peoples. Once those strategies and solutions were arrived at, they would then be fed to the level 3 folks for implementation and organization and delivery and facilitation in the venues that they were designed to improve or to transform. We have gone through a workshop in which we were looking specifically at the country of Bangladesh, and which is one of the most at-risk countries in our world in regard to global warming. And we've utilized this model to talk through and work through just precisely when, where, how, and why solutions could be implemented in that specific venue, economic solutions, solutions in regard to rising water levels, solutions in regard to increasing climate problems such as stronger hurricanes that might hit them, and solutions in regard to how to migrate people from that country, which is likely to be underwater and then not completely in the not too distant future. So long-term, evolvable, refinable solutions are kind of a necessity for our future as a world. And I want to ask that if anyone has any comments or questions anywhere along the way, please do ask them and feel free. You won't be interrupting, you'll be enhancing this communication. So the level 3 implementation of strategy and solutions level, it would include world leaders, governments, collaborating corporations, people who were specifically skilled and educated in terms of implementing large-scale change. And they would also include what we're terming WSS facilitators, meaning people who have been trained to facilitate collaboration from non-judgment, from unconditional love, from validation of all collaborating participants. These facilitators are core to this entire social movement engine functioning and operating at optimal levels, because they give the capacity for people who are currently polarized in their approaches or fearful or judgmental or projecting onto this situation or onto the world situation or onto any problem that we might be addressing or any transformational need that we might be addressing. They would be able to facilitate those people into a more equanimous vantage point, a more inclusive vantage point, out of polarization and into collaboration and negotiation. They would function as moderators in the dynamics of negotiation and agreement attainment. There's one other element of the social movement engine that we want to ensure is understood. All of the participants in this collaborative mechanism or technology, however we would phrase it, all of the agreements they produce will be also stored in a blockchain database, meaning that it will be indelible. It cannot be modified after the fact. It cannot be, they cannot say one thing and then do another. They cannot claim that they're going to be participative and agree to it and then not, and then say that they didn't agree to it in the first place. So this engine of agreement storage, of agreement creation and agreement storage that everyone will then be able to reference for the long-term future, is also key to ensuring the integrity of the entire process. And that doesn't mean agreements can't be changed or modified or evolved. It means that if they are changed, modified, or evolved, that there will be a record, and it will be an honest and integrous process that is inclusive of all participants, and that the entire process will be as on the up and up and as transparent and honest and integrous as it possibly can be made to be. And of course, all of this system will have the highest security to ensure that it is not manipulated by external actors or special interests or any mechanism, hackers or governmental representatives that might not want collaboration and world transformation to occur in a healthy, balanced, integrous way. Next slide. So level one of the social movement engine, the social movement management team, would be a support team, and they would be supporting social movements that were existing in the world, such as the Black Lives Matter or the hashtag #MeToo or COVID-19 protesters. This is not a process of supporting people working against existing systems. It's a process of supporting them transforming existing systems to bring about equality and equity and fairness and balance and harmony. So these folks would facilitate existing social movements. They would, based upon the inclusion of all of the statements from all the different peoples of the world, they would be able to determine there is a vast interest in this group of people or across the world in this change occurring. And they would be able to then facilitate the organized formulation of social movements that spanned the globe, that were healthy and transformative in nature and had positive intention. And they would be able to bring funders together with those groups and supporters. Right now, the challenge that we face in regard to social movements, even the most well-intentioned social movements, is that they are either not well organized or not well funded or not supported and they don't have a central information system to optimize their expression in the world, and therefore many of them tend to peter out or tend to get lost in the tumultuousness of today's conflicted, rapidly changing world. And so a support mechanism for those very excellent social movements to ensure that they do come to fruition, they do achieve their goals, and that they are heard and listened to, and that the voices of all of humanity, of every individual person in the street, are heard, are listened to, are validated, are made participative in the transformational evolution and process of our entire species, of the whole world process. This team would have access to all required data from all participants, from all social movements, or from just, again, grassroots inclusions from anyone in the world, from all affiliated nations and all affiliated cultures. The facilitation team would provide educational data, meaning that there will be a facilitation team trained by the WSS to provide information and educational materials that would help anybody anywhere effect their sovereign empowered will as they saw fit through and via the social movement engine, technology, and process. So they would generate educational materials that would be immediately available to anybody that was participating with the social movement engine. So if somebody in Bangladesh who was concerned about the possibility of their country flooding wanted to better understand when, where, how, and why that might occur and what they could actually do to ensure that it didn't affect them and their families, information would be made available directly to them in a real-time manner that would help them to understand, and if they chose, to organize their efforts with all of the other folks in their country or other people in other worlds, other people in this world in other countries. They would be able to align their efforts and efficiently apply their energies and whatever their capacities are to facilitate that global transformation and also the transformation of their nation, Bangladesh, in harmonious orchestrated union. The social movement engine aligns social energies on important global issues, and it operates as a communications hub so that if there are, in our currently complex world, if there are 50 different key elements of information that must be brought together in an integrated way in order to truly understand the nature of any problem that we face, or any issue that we face, or any goal that we want to attain as a collective, that all of that information will be available in one place, all at the same time, in a well-organized database of information, a very accessible information resource. So the social movement engine would be this reception point for participants' intentions and votes. The data would be anonymized, meaning if somebody in a challenged country spoke up and said that they felt that there was a problem with the governmental process, they would be able to have that data anonymized so that they would not be targetable by that government. They would not be punishable for having told their truth and having expressed their clear desires as they saw fit in their own sovereign manner. And that, of course, that anonymized data would be highly secure so that it could not be misused or misapplied in the world in a detrimental way. any negative data or information or statements that were received by this system and by the facilitators that were organizing this information and maintaining it, such as people simply venting, saying, I hate these people, or I think the only way that the world can be better is if these people were eliminated, or that this government is good and that government is bad, therefore that government shouldn't exist. Everyone has the right to their own self-expressions. We're not suggesting acting upon that information. We are suggesting that negative information or judgmental information or just expressions of pain and suffering that come out as negative verbalizations be received in constructive ways by the facilitators. So if someone says, my family is being harmed by the government, or my family is starving, or my family is about to be flooded and drowned, and I hate these people and these people and these people, we'll be able to suss out, well, we get that you're in pain, we get that you're suffering, and we also get that this, from what you've said, the potential solution to that pain and suffering is not to resonate with the anger and the hatred, it's to understand the nature of the problems or the issues or the suffering that you're experiencing, so we can find the underlying truths in whatever is communicated. So there would be no even seemingly hateful speech that we've vilified in our world is an expression of a human process. We're not advocating hatred. We're advocating understanding why people have been driven to such extreme states of negative emotion. And if we understand that and we address that suffering and that pain strategically and tactically and effectively and efficiently, then the hatred goes away. That which generated it is resolved, and therefore the negative emotion, the negative destructive actions, terrorism, war are diminished. And international conflict diminished by resolving the underlying issues that generated the conflict in the first place. So certainly not advocating anything negative, and certainly also not judging it, trying to understand it as best as humanly possible. So we would suggest that all of the data that's collected by the social movement engine will be the most accurate mirror of all of the contributors' expressions, meaning a snapshot of where the world is today, and have that snapshot refreshed continually. So as times change, strategies change, policies change, approaches change, solutions change, to precisely and accurately meet the pain and suffering of the world with a soothing balm of strategically applied solution. The inputs will define the data that is fed to the solutions and strategy development users to inform them of local situations or national situations or global situations. And that will all help to define optimized, implemented strategies and solutions and technologies. Might we pause at this point for discussion?
This is very, very interesting and inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It is meant to help, and we're looking for comments, critiques, improvements, areas that we might be missing. We're approaching all of this with the assumption that we don't know, and the assumption that we also can understand at some point the nature of all the issues that we're facing collectively, and that they, through that understanding, that they can be wisely approached, consciously approached, caringly approached, and thus resolved or healed in the time available with the resources available via aligned social effort and energy and intention that just gets more refined as time goes by, more conscious and more better understood by all participating parties as time goes by.
John?
Yes.
Do you see this engine as operating on the backbone of the internet?
At the present moment, and I'm going to be very candid if that's all right. At the present moment, yes. And we understand the limitations of that, meaning there are some countries that limit internet access in a very circumscribed way.
That was my second question.
I believe you. So recognizing that truth and fact of today's world, and also recognizing that human beings tend to find a way to get their messages out if they assume and know that there is a reception point for those messages, that they can validate, that they can trust, that will care and will make a difference as long as they get that message out. Even out of North Korea, they're as tightly sealed as that country is, there are still messengers that arrive in other parts of the world that are communicating what's going on within those borders and how people are being treated or mistreated on an ongoing basis. So we would suggest that as a starting point, this will not be able to include every voice of every human being in the world. And as soon as it gets started, as soon as this process begins and starts initiating transformation in the world, the communications will open with these different areas far more, that it will be seen not as a problem, it will be seen as a solution for the collective, and it will be seen as integrous and beneficial, and that will tend to open borders as time goes by rather than close them. And that there will be relevance seen by even oppressive governmental entities. There will be seen adequate relevance for their participation as the pressures on our world increase in the not too distant future. As the pressures of global warming increase, as the pressures of economic recession or COVID or pollution or economic problems of various kinds in various areas of the world, as they increase, we feel that it's likely that people will recognize that neither nationalism nor populism will solve the pain and suffering of the people living in the world. And that as they shift that perspective to recognizing that collaborative effort is the only answer, inclusive, equal, collaborative effort, as they recognize that more and more, that this highway for collaborative effort, we're calling the social movement engine, will be utilized by more and more and more people until it becomes the de facto or default mechanism of global change management and transformation and problem resolution. Did we answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent.
John?
Yes.
Yes, hi, this is Elise. I have a question. I apologize, I had to step away from my computer for a minute and I missed the part about the information being available for the universities and you know, them being able to use that information to educate and work with the movement. But my question about this is, will this information also be made available for the younger generation? Because to answer your question from the beginning of the meeting is that I tend to lose hope about, you know, what my nieces and nephews will have to go through. So I think they are, in my eyes, they are a big target for them to change the way they think, and the input of information they get, in school or through the news or social media and all that stuff. And this is very intricate and, very complicated for them to understand. So I just wonder how this will trickle down to the younger generation, for them to also incite their parents to make changes, because sometimes that's where, that's the movement that needs to happen, is from the bottom up.
Totally agreed. Thank you. So absolutely, yes, focusing on getting, we may not have communicated it adequately, and I apologize. This system is designed to be an educational mechanism for anyone that interacts with it, should they choose to avail themselves of those capacities. Meaning a central database of global transformation and change management. And the young people of our world are growing up in our present world. They're seeing the problems quite a bit more clearly many times than the current generation or the older generations. And they recognize that things are not working, and they don't see, many of them, a way forward for humanity as a species. We're attempting to offer them both a path forward, a way that they can collaborate, a way they can express themselves, and a way that they can co-create their future and have power and impact and effect in a consistent way that brings hope and brings possibility and brings recognition of their own personal sovereign power and the power of their free will in the world. So they don't feel like they're just riding on the Titanic and waiting for it to hit the iceberg. That this system will give an entirely new navigational system to the Titanic, or to the ship of the world, to steer it in a healthy direction and away from the problems. Their inputs, the input of the young folks in this world, are the answer, because they're going to be clearer, they're going to be more real time, they're going to be focused on the future. There are many people who are currently supporting the status quo that is vital. If we didn't have supply chains and things like that, and current technologies and organizations and governmental function, if we didn't have what is right now to support the world, we wouldn't be able to even have this conversation and even strategize and plan for the future. And most everything that exists right now is going to be required to change rapidly in the near future. We've spent trillions of dollars just on COVID-19, just in the United States. Trillions. That money is now gone, or is going, because we weren't prepared, and because we haven't taken advantage of the opportunity to prepare and to invest in our future and our children's futures. The same is true of global warming. Global warming, we're looking at spending, just in the United States, at least as far as I recall from the news, give or take $17 trillion in the next 10 years or something. So, and that's just the United States. So if we don't have a mechanism that brings everyone together in a well-organized, orchestrated way, and if we don't have the steerage of that process coming up from the young people who are going to be required to live in the future that is built, if they don't have a say, if they don't have power, if they don't recognize that they're contributing, then they might lose hope. They might simply fear for the future, or they might become complacent and not even realize that it's occurred until it's too late. And we're not painting a doom or gloom picture for our future world. We're trying to paint the brightest possible picture via the easiest, cost-effective, efficient, effective, healthy, loving, collaborative path that we can. And as I said earlier, we invite all adjustments, refinements, improvements to this process, this strategy, and this plan. And we do not assume that it is complete in any way. And it's simply our best current prototype approach. So thank you, Elise, for that important statement, because it is our children and their children that will inherit this world.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. I definitely didn't want to make the comment that it wasn't complete. It's just that as I joined this this meeting, I automatically feel, you know, I wonder what my part in it could be. And so by you clarifying, you know, how this could expand, and, you know, I can brainstorm a little bit and start thinking about how I could participate and do my part, and what I feel like I could contribute. So thank you for explaining that.
You're very welcome. And I didn't take your comment that way. I'm speaking to the world here for the future, other people who will receive this recording and who might assume that we think we've got it all figured out, and thus dismiss this out of hand in some ways because it might appear to be hubris that drives this. It's not. Love is the motivation for this entire suggestion, this whole strategy, this mechanism. We love the world. We love its people. We want to help them. And your participation is requested and desired, as is everyone's.
Thank you, John.
You're very welcome. Questions, thoughts?
Hi, John.
Hello.
Hi, this is Lindsay. Thank you so much. This is really a great presentation, and as I'm digesting all of this information, like Elise, I'm trying to see how I can participate, how I can get involved. And I was curious about when you're talking about the social movement engine overview and level 1, which I see like that. Do you see that that's where this all will begin, on the ground level where we're collecting ideas and problems? And my question is, how do you see that collection from WSS? Do you see it as facilitators physically going into schools, into communities, into countries, in person, as group facilitators? Do you see it as a digital program that that is anonymous, that's safe data collection, that is shared through social media to collect this data, to then share to the people who can implement and make these changes? I'm just a little bit curious how you see the breakdown of level 1 and what that looks like.
Wonderful question, and thank you. So the answer is what point in time we look at those questions, meaning initially it is quite feasible to technologically develop a digital interface or app that could be on anybody's smartphone, for example, or anyone's desktop in the world. And that is a very useful, efficient, and rapid information collection and solution and problem collection strategy. And it's a useful place to start. And it of course would be free to anybody and everybody, as would this whole system. It would be funded by contributions from philanthropists, not-for-profits, charities, etc., and governments. So there would be, and with no funding ever influencing its process. So what we're getting at by by saying the timeline is important. Initially, right now, we're developing a whole new model of collaboration between people within the WSS team of teams. And that team of teams is made up of a therapeutic team, people who are psychologists, psychiatrists, etc., or facilitators and coaches. There's a business team, excellent, knowledgeable people who understand the business world and the financial world. It's got a spiritual team for people who are spiritually focused and inclined, and excellent teachers and facilitators and healers. It's got a consulting team for folks that would be aware of and knowledgeable about governmental policy development and or international business dynamics. We're also now looking at bringing in people for the information technology team and for the organizational development team. And there's no limit to the number or types of teams that could be created. We've also got an orientation team, so to receive new people who would be interested in participating, interested in learning more about the WSS and its overall process and the social movement engine, and to facilitate them in understanding when or how and why they can participate, how they can learn more about it, how they can contribute, how they can understand it, and how they can best participate in a collaborative way as it evolves across time, hopefully quite rapidly. And that process, as it unfolds, is going to yield more and more numbers of sophisticated facilitators that would then be able to staff the core social movement organization and engine and facilitate collaboration within the context of the social movement engine organization, whether it's people who were talking face-to-face or online from anywhere in the world collaboratively. And in answer to another part of your earlier question, once there are enough facilitators and their whole process of facilitating is evolved as to a high enough level, and then it becomes possible to have them operate as ambassadors or as facilitators in person anywhere in the world, in any culture, in order to either bring about resolution of conflicts, bring about shared understandings, understand new ways forward for any particular nation or culture or group of organizations, and to optimize the co-creative capacity of any of those nations, cultures, groups, or organizations that might wish to work together with the social movement engine process in order to effect positive transformation and constructive change in the world. So this is a constantly evolving, constantly learning, constantly transforming and changing dynamic that is designed to get better and better and better day by day at facilitated constructive transformation of human life process in every nation and across the world. I don't know if that, and so what that boils down to is everybody's invited, everyone has something to contribute. If we're approaching any different dimension of human life, then there's going to be a place for anybody basically that wants to contribute. And you can design your own team. You can work with other people to develop your own team that learns and understands particular issues in the world and brings together the resources, the expertise, the knowledge, the solutions to resolve them. And that will all blend into the mix in the social movement engine process. Did we answer your question?
Thank you so much. Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. You're quite welcome. More questions, thoughts, or comments? We do want to say that currently the For example, the United Nations and UNESCO, they do such good in the world, and they were initially designed in an unbalanced way, with the more powerful nations being able to call the shots and to be able to define what would and would not fly in terms of global transformation or evolution of human species process. That's not a criticism, that's a description of a dynamic and a paradigm that no longer serves the world or humanity optimally. What we're suggesting here would not be limited by special interest or power, international or national power, or in either wealthy individuals or any powerful collective trying to define the process and cadence of the unfoldment of the future world process for everybody else. This is designed to allow everyone to have a voice, everyone to contribute, everyone to influence, everyone to be co-creatively powerful in an optimized and refinable way that is honest and integrous, and which is designed only to serve, to, in essence, operate as the surrendered will of the people. Now, we could say that people don't always make wise choices, and people can vote for a future that is not an optimal future. And paradoxically, the only way that human beings currently know how to learn, or not the only way, a common way, is through the school of hard knocks. So this will be transformational. It will also be a mechanism of collective learning. 2,000 years ago or so, the Romans built their aqueducts that carried their water from the mountains to the cities, and they lined some of them with lead, and they lead poisoned some of their populations. That dynamic has been replicated today in our world with our pollution of the water tables through our blind utilization of many chemicals that have leached into the water tables. I would suggest that in 2,000 years, we have not found or generated a mechanism of collective species learning that was efficient enough to deal with that fundamental and prime an issue in our world. So I would suggest that the social movement engine is designed to deal with that profound an issue, meaning we just have not understood how to collectively design and refine and evolve our world and transform it and grow it in a way that did not simultaneously damage it. So this social movement engine is designed to collect all of the referential information that would say, these are what the problems are, this is how we arrived at them, and these are the ways to shift our life process collectively so that we don't generate an even more massive and potentially unresolvable state of damage to our planet, such as raising the temperature 5 degrees Celsius in 100 years or something like that and making the planet unlivable, or simply putting microplastics into the ocean, so much so that they get into the fish that we then eat, nor also dealing with the collapse of fish populations in the ocean that might then kind of make our populations unsustainable because we don't have a source of protein to feed on anymore. Those are just a few of the issues that we are facing as a collective. If we don't have an intelligent mechanism to intelligently balance and apply resources ever more efficiently in the future, collectively and consistently, then those kinds of domino effects of increasing population and the effect of humanity on the natural world are likely to increase. Again, that's a description. There's no doom or gloom about this. We're suggesting it can be solved. We have hope. We have recognition of our collective power and capacity. Technology can be our friend. It can be aligned with the human heart. It can be aligned with the highest common good of all of humanity. And it's optimal that that occur in the very near term. Our current systems of governance of technological evolution and revolution cannot keep up. The judicial system cannot keep up with the rapid changes in technology. There must be some new system of not control, certainly not, of awareness, of high conscious awareness of what we're building, what its implications are, how it's being used, what the downsides of its implementation are, and what the very positive and constructive upsides can be. And then have people understand that as a collective and say, yes, we do want genetic engineering for this reason, or we don't want it for that reason. Putting power in the hands of a few is detrimental to the many, because the few cannot feel the pain of the many. They don't have a way right now to feel that pain. We're hoping that the social movement engine can help those who do have power to truly understand the nature of the pain and suffering of the global community, and accurately and precisely respond to it if they are the ones making the decisions, defining the solutions, and implementing them, that they understand very precisely and are held to account via their recorded agreements to fulfill on what they say they will do in terms of improving the world, and that there will be a feedback mechanism to say, did it work? Did they do it? Did it help? If it did help, in what way? If it actually hurt in some way, how did it hurt? And can we refine the strategy in the near term without judgment, without punishment, without vilifying or crucifying anybody, and as a harmoniously working collective, a collaborative collective. Thoughts, comments? If we go to the next slide. This is a more granular level of detail of how the social movement engine can work at level 1. On the left side, you see the starter capacities. Some of them, not all of them, just for discussion, for evaluation, and to spark brainstorming and thinking as to what might be needed and what would be most helpful in terms of generating global solutions. So, for example, starting at the top, a capacity to model climate change and how it can be managed. That is being done in many venues in the world today, and it's not an integrated process. It's an out of step process that is not well refined and is not being as collectively integrated and efficiently integrated in a single point of focus for resolution of all the different data, the different viewpoints, the different values, the different priorities, in order to create a single snapshot or picture of where is it optimal for us to go now and in the future as a collective species. Also on the left side, we have a global database of level 1 user inputs. So those are whether they are individuals or they are institutions or they are subject matter experts. That data would be stored and referenceable and collatable and integratable into statistics, and be able to say 58% of the world thinks that climate change is a problem, or 10% of the world thinks that climate change is a problem. So that there would be an understanding of the current level of knowledge and awareness on any particular topic that is of concern to everybody, and that awareness would then drive the educational engine so that people would be informed with the latest, clearest, cleanest, non-biased data that is available, and they would be able to see where it was all sourced from There would not be misinformation, no fake news allowed, no agenda-ified, spun information. And that would be very carefully monitored and regulated to remain that way. And the WSS and the social movement engine organizational culture would be based, and it's being designed and defined right now and educated to be integrous, to be clear, to be as purely, consciously caring and unconditionally loving as possible, so that intrusive traditional elements of agenda or traditional priorities of the past that are competition-based or greed-based would simply not be part of that process of evaluation. So a database of cultural dynamics and transformation, a culture transformation modeling engine that people could all contribute to, that would cover the various bases of ideology, philosophy, cultural paradigms, how to facilitate change in any venue that meets the needs of that culture, that meets the needs of that nation in a harmonious way, including their spiritual values, which must be respected and valued and validated. Also on the left side, we've got a database of prior solutions and technologies and all the projects that had previously been implemented around the world that could be referenced to say, this is what we did before, this is what worked, this is what didn't work, this is how it was implemented, and this is how it can be either tailored to a new venue to precisely fit that new situation or meet the needs of that population, or it can be strategized to bring about a new form of change. So there's a collective history that can be evolved from in a single integrated database. So this would also be a communications engine, meaning that there would be an ongoing dialogue with all participants. If somebody said the only solution I see is to our world problems is if we all quit working together and worked as nations and didn't collaborate and didn't try to help each other, there could be feedback information to them to say, well, that's not, there's some validity to what you're saying. And if we do that in the world, this will be the likely result, meaning there won't be supply chains to bring face masks and gloves from China to America, or there won't be the capacity to distribute globally a coronavirus inoculation, or there won't be an option of shared technology that can develop complete integrated solutions to world problems. So back and forth communication is necessary, and that interplay will inform the social movement engine of where people are at, and it'll also give people an option and an opportunity to see things in ways different than they might have been looking at them in the past. So if some people are very polarized in the present moment in either their political views, their economic views, their cultural views, their whatever they are, they will have the option, if they choose to avail themselves of it, of seeing how other people are looking at the situation. So they develop a more holistic and integrative perspective via communications and via education. And then the world learns to collaborate better and all be kind of operating from the same sheet of music, or co-creatively develop the same playbook that they then operate from. So the social movement strategy modeling would be facilitative, a logistics modeling engine, meaning getting resources, technology, and solutions and information to wherever it's needed in the world efficiently and cost effectively. A resource inventory database, meaning anybody could list their skill sets and their capacities and their expertise and their availability to co-creatively participate in solutions development on any problem in the world, in any transformational effort in the world. And that could be individuals or corporations or research institutions or think tanks. So there would be online, well-organized, available resources that could be cobbled together or brought together very rapidly and efficiently and effectively in order to define strategy, in order to define technology and solutions that could effectively be delivered anywhere they were needed. So also a resource database that would list funding that was available, or that would list organizations that were making technology available, and or manpower or person power that, you know, people saying, I'm available to help in this way on this issue, or to resolve this problem in my country or in these countries. There would also be a statistics and data engine, meaning that they would kind of keep track of where the problems are in the present moment, what solutions are being applied to them, what degree of resolution has been achieved. Thank you, Amy. I apologize, folks, we are right at 90 minutes, and we can either contemplate a next step, a next meeting that would go in further depth than this one as to when, where, how, and why this can be designed, affected in the world, or we can communicate all of the other facets of it, because there are more, and or any comments, closing comments you might have, or closing questions. So we would suggest we're going to make this whole presentation slideshow available to everyone who is participating. You're welcome to share it with anybody, and the recording will be made available. You're welcome to share that with anybody. And we're not putting any limits on this. Thank you, Lindsay. And so we're going to be having future meetings, and if you make this recording available to others, they'll be able to stay in sync with this evolving conversation. And thank you, Florencia. We hope that everything has made sense. We know it's a lot. The world needs a lot of benefit and a lot of help. So if you have further questions, it's fine to email the orientation team, and you can reach them on the website wssnow.org. And Amy, would you say the email address? Is it contact WSS?
I just put it in the chat.
Thank you.
As well as the website address, and you can also do connect@wssnow.org.
Excellent. So there's lots of information, lots on the website that will give you a far larger multidimensional view of the social movement engine, the WSS in general. The launch team has created an excellent resource for participation and collaboration, and it's going to be evolved via your contributions, your feedback, your ideas, your thoughts, your preferences, and we appreciate all of them. We appreciate your patience and tolerance and kindness and love for having been here today and participated in this conversation. We hope it's been of benefit, and that it continues to be of benefit in the future, and the conversation will continue. So if you're quite welcome, folks.
Thank you.
So is this a good time to close? Thank you, folks. It's an honor to get to talk with you. We wish you all the very best, and God bless, and thank you.